Gary Ridgway. Throughout the 80s and 90s, Gary Ridgway, or also known as the Green River Killer, was believed to have murdered at least 71 teenage girls and young women near the Seattle area. His victims were often sex workers or runaways he would pick up along the Pacific Highway. He would trick them by showing them a picture of his son. After gaining their trust, he would strangle them and normally dumping their bodies along the Green River or the Seattle-Tacoma Airport. The bodies were often posed and nude, and also sometimes he would return to the bodies and have sexual intercourse with them. In 2001, when DNA testing increased, he was arrested. On November 5, 2003, he took a guilty plea of 48 charges of first-degree murder. H Holmes. In the 1880s, H Holmes built a 3-story hotel in Castle, Chicago. While constructing, Holmes instructed them to create trapdoors and chutes that weren't on the blueprints. He would also fire workers daily. In 1893, Holmes opened his hotel for visitors, but unfortunately, many of the guests did not leave Holmes' murder castle. Holmes would murder his guests in his living quarters and then use the chutes to move the bodies down to the basement where he would perform experiments on them. Holmes also had a habit of getting engaged to women to only have them suddenly disappear, and his other victims were often lured by employment. His obsession to murder soon halted in November 1894. Holmes was arrested for killing 27 people, but it is thought to be closer to 200 people he killed in his murder castle. The Exorcism of Rolando. In the 40s in Cottage City, Maryland, a 14-year-old boy and his aunt used to commonly play with a Ouija board. But when she died, he tried to contact her, but instead got a dark entity. The family started hearing unexplained noises and voices. It soon escalated to Ryland's bed shaking and objects moving on their own accord. The family contacted a psychologist and a priest. They began an exorcism to rid the evil presence. This caused the activity to rapidly increase, with Ryland being scratched, bruised, and even having inscriptions bedded into his skin. Like "Help Me" and "Louis." They took that as a sign to move to St. Louis. During the exorcisms, Ryland could speak Latin and spoke in a different voice, as well as getting very violent when he saw religious icons. After 20 to 30 exorcisms, he was finally rid of the demon. Mark Twitzel. In Alberta, Canada, an aspiring filmmaker, Twitzel set up his garage for his short horror film. Twitzel catfished John Altinger on an online dating website. They were scheduled to meet October 10, 2008. After a long hiatus, John's friend received a strange email stating that him and this woman set on a long vacation to Costa Rica, and his boss received a letter of resignation. With growing suspicions, they went to his house. They found his passport and other belongings still there. A homicide investigation was launched. They found a document on his laptop entitled SK Confessions, which stood for Serial Killer Confessions. It went into details of the murder, which was inspired by the popular TV show Dexter. April 12, 2011, he was charged with first-degree murder. The Golden State Killer. Starting in April of 1974, there were a series of more than 120 burglaries in Visalia, California. They were all done by the Visalia ransacker. Weirdly enough, he didn't take high-ticket items. He would take momentums as well as gaining experience. But in 1976, it would turn darker when rapes would occur in the Sacramento area. He was known as the East Area Rapist. But during these crimes, he would often make himself at home, for example, making a sandwich or spending hours there. In 1978, not only was he committing rapes, but he started murdering his victims. He would kill 13 others in his killing spree till 1986. Finally, in 2001, with DNA, they found out that all these crimes were related. April 24, 2018, they arrested Joseph D'Angelo, a former police officer, through a DNA kit through a family member. Delphine LaLaurier. In the 1800s, Delphine relocated to New Orleans from France with her family. She was a New Orleans socialite with a horrific torture chamber. In her attic, she would torture slaves in inhumane ways. There's no exact number, but it's believed to be over 100 victims from the span of 1831 to 1834. This horrific discovery wasn't found until April 10, 1834, when her mansion burned down, and rescuers found bodies in the attic chained up with spike iron collars and other evidence of cruel and violent abuse over years. When the news broke out, it is believed that LaLaurier fled New Orleans during a mob to Alabama and then to Paris. It is believed that she died in 1888 in France during a boar hunting accident. Her wrath led her to be known as one of the most horrific women in history. Daniel William. In the summer of 2009, 20-year-old Samantha Nance moved to the Art Institute of Dallas from her small hometown in Texas. She moved into an apartment with Ashley Novera. Soon after, Sam got a boyfriend, Nathan Sunk. Life seemed perfect until September 11, 2009. Samantha's body was found in her apartment. She was stabbed 42 times in the back and neck. Ashley and Nathan were immediate suspects. Ashley was ruled out, but the police found a plastic bag with Nance's blood on it in Nathan's apartment. With extreme interrogation, he was ruled out. They then moved to Sunk's roommate, Daniel William. William became frustrated that Nathan was spending too much time with the girls. He was also found buying the same blue gloves that were found at the scene. William was arrested and found guilty of first-degree murder, all because of a jealous rage. Krista Holmes. In the 70s, Holmes was an aspiring actor and model. February 12, 1977, the night of her death, she was invited to a party in Hollywood. She wanted her agent to go with her. When he declined, she drove to his house when she was found stabbed 22 times in the face and neck, and then beaten most likely with a hammer in front of her agent's house. She died shortly after this attack. Some believe, due to the aggressive nature of the attack, that it was someone that was angry with her. Allegedly, she kept a diary and audio tapes that would rate her sexual experience with celebrities and rock stars of the time. They believe someone powerful wanted her quiet. Others believed it was a mugging that went terribly wrong. We may never know if Krista's death was a result of a random attack or a part of a high-level conspiracy, but to this day, it is unsolved. The Zodiac Killer. The Zodiac Killer's killing spree lasted from 1968 to 1969. He attacked 7 people in 4 different locations in the Northern Bay Area of California. His first 3 targets were couples in secluded areas. Only 2 of them survived. One gave a description of a white male in their late 20s, and the other was a male in a hood with the self-proclaimed Zodiac symbol on it. His last known victim was a taxi driver. Some teens saw the murder, and they gave a description of a white male, but police had a miscommunication and was looking for a black male. The police were even believed to talk to him right after the murder. He would antagonize the police by calling in the murders right after they happened, as well as keeping a scoreboard, even sending letters with cryptograms. Most of them were unsolved because of his poor spelling. His identity is still unknown. The Sleepy Robber. On September 18, 2020, at 4 a.m., Santi Reddy was sleeping in his unlocked home in the Godavari district. A 21-year-old man, Babu, attempted to rob his home. Reddy unwittingly made it very convenient for Babu by keeping his money and valuables not in a safe, but in fact keeping it on a table near him. But Babu couldn't resist the temptation to sleep because Reddy had air conditioning in his home. So Babu decided to take a power nap underneath the homeowner's coat. But Reddy was woken up by snoring he heard from the other room. Reddy locked him inside of the room and called the police. The police arrived at around 7:30. Babu was found sleeping in the room he was locked in. He was arrested on site and was charged for attempted theft. The Giggling Nanny. Nanny married her first husband at the age of 16 to escape her controlling father. They had 4 daughters in an unhappy marriage, with the husband cheating and Nanny having a drinking problem. But suddenly 2 of the girls died from food poisoning. Nanny's grief ended when the insurance policy came in. They got a divorce and Nanny had the kids. Nanny put an ad in the paper for more suitors and would move place to place to follow them. All of her husbands, except for one, would all suddenly die from poisoning, right after their insurance policy was placed. Her 4th husband died of a heart attack, but she burned down the estate when she found out his sister was getting it. She even killed her grandsons as well as her mother in her care. But her 5th husband was the end of her killing when doctors suspected foul play. On May 17, 1955, Nanny pled guilty to all 11 murders and giggled her way to prison.